All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Discover Uni virtual series focused on marine environmental programs. Before we jump into things, I do want to thank Charles Tilburg and Clayton for being here tonight with us, and we will get into introductions in just a moment. But tonight, we're really going to focus and dive deep into our marine environmental programs. Again, we're going to hear from Dr. Charles Tilburg and also have a student perspective throughout the presentation. Again, as you learn more, not only about the different, offerings within marine science, but also everything that our students have access to here at the University of New England. Throughout the session, though, there is a live chat feature where if you have any questions, please utilize that. You can ask any questions that you may have throughout the presentation. We have another colleague of ours on the back end answering questions through the chat, but we will also have a live Q&A at the end of this presentation for any additional questions that we maybe weren't able to answer throughout the presentation. But before we get started, again, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Donald Vivian. I'm an assistant director here at the Office of Undergrad Admissions at the University of New England. I work directly with students from the Boston and the North Shore of Massachusetts. So we're really excited, again, to welcome you to this virtual session. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charles to handle the introductions and really jump into the presentation.
All right, thank you, Donald. So my name is Charles Tilburg, and I'm the academic director of the School of Marine and Environmental Programs. And I want to introduce Clayton Neary, who is, Clayton, are you a junior?
Yeah, I'm currently a junior.
So Clayton, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Clayton Neary. I'm a junior at UNE, majoring in marine science and minoring in applied mathematics and chemistry. I'm involved in both shark research, shark and fish ecology research, as well as coral fluorescence research on campus, and a pretty active member in the Marine Science Center, I'd say. I get around, I'm involved in various sports and clubs, but I primarily focus on the shark research that I've been conducting over the summers at UNE, as well as throughout the school year.
All right, thanks, Clayton. So I just want to explain the format. We're going to first talk about the location and facilities here at the University of New England for both the school, both marine and environmental. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the labs and field experience. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about all the different academic options we have here, all the different majors and minors. You're going to see there's quite a few of them in our school. Then talk a little bit about what you can do beyond the classroom. And you're going to see that's actually a really big part of the experience here in the School of Marine Environmental Programs, is doing stuff not just in the lectures, not just in the labs, but actually out in this fantastic location that we have. Then we're going to finish with some questions, and hopefully Clayton and I can answer most of them. All right, so I always like to start with this shamelessly beautiful picture. This is actually looking right off of our campus. This is about 30 seconds from the Marine Science Center. And you can just look out and see, this is Camp Ellis on the other side of the Saco River. Just give you an idea of what our location looks like. And here's to me, probably even a better picture. Most of the students here, probably all the ones that are here looking at what we're going to talk about here is, I want to tell you, this is your classroom. This is the Saco River. This is where the Saco River meets Saco Bay in the Atlantic Ocean. Right in the middle, up at the top, you see Ram Island, which is an island that the University of New England owns. And so this is what you're going to be studying. You're not just going to be in the Marine Science Center or the Environmental Studies labs, where we've got little arrows pointing to it. You're going to be out in the intertidal. You're going to be out on our boats. You're going to be on the island. You're going to be in the salt marshes. And I love this video because this pretty much encapsulates what it's like to be a student here in the School of Marine Environmental Programs. So this video was taken by one of our students on one of our junior level classes entitled Coastal Fishery Techniques. And Donald, if you can run the video. So I love that video. Clayton, what kind of shark was that?
So in that video, it didn't run for me, but it's the video I'm thinking about. It should be a blue shark that was caught in that video in the lab. Blue sharks are just one of the many species that call the Gulf of Maine home. We also tag thresher sharks, porbeagles, now the occasional white shark, and a few other makos. So there's a lot of different species of sharks that you get to work with in the Gulf of Maine in the classroom.
And so one of the really cool things about that, so that was Dr. John Mohan's class, and in the class you learn all about, you know, gestational periods and mating and all those things about the different sharks. But then you get to go out and you actually get to catch them. Now, for those of you who don't know very much about it, when it looked like Dr. Mohan was stabbing the shark with a spear, what he was actually doing was putting a satellite tag on the shark, so then we can then track where the shark goes for the entire time that it's on there. This next picture shows the on-campus Marine Science Center, and what I want you to be able to see here is how close we are to the water. What you can't see is that this is actually right on campus. In fact, most of the dorms are closer to the Marine Science Center than they are to the cafeteria. So I joke that our students can roll out of bed and come right to the lab. Now, you can't really do that because you have to have closed-toed shoes on it and long pants and all those types of things. But it's really that close. And so lots of the animals that we have in the Marine Science Center, the only reason why we can have them is because we have seawater that 24 hours before it's in the Marine Science Center was actually in the Atlantic Ocean. Because every day we pump water from the Saco River, you know, or the mouth of the Saco River, into a big holding tank that then flows through the building. So just some of the areas around here. We have the longest stretch of white sandy beaches in Maine. In fact, this picture here shows that is actually our campus, and that is about a minute from the Marine Science Center. And if you look at the tree that's in the background, there's a rock right next to it. That's where I go and sit if I'm ever having a bad day. And I challenge any of you to go sit on that rock, look out at the Atlantic Ocean, and stay in a bad mood for more than 5 minutes, because it's just an absolutely beautiful area. But not only do we have white sandy beaches, the Saco River has the largest area of salt marshes in Maine. This picture here, in the middle, you can see Pam Morgan, who's one of our faculty members, and the majority of her class that she's teaching here is actually out in the salt marshes. So our students are going to be out in the environment. And in fact, if you do come here, and Clayton has heard this more times than he probably would like, is you can't learn marine science without doing marine science. You can't learn environmental science without doing environmental science. And that's part of the philosophy that we have here at the University of New England, is that you're going to be out doing things. You're not just going to be learning it. You know, you're not going to be just listening to the professors talk. You're actually going to be doing what we're talking about. And this, to me, is the crown jewel of the area. This is Ram Island. If you look at this is at low tide, where you can see a lot of the intertidal. You can see there's a little part of grass that's right in the middle. And you can see that there's a ramp that goes up to it. We have a boat that is specifically designed to go on this ramp so that our students can have labs where they go out and do transects and study the area, you know, the area where the water is, but also environmental science students go out there and study the many different species of birds that are on the green area. So there's all kinds of opportunities for our students to get out and study the environment. And this island is so close that from where I'm sitting, and I'm sitting in the Marine Science Center right now, 30 minutes from now, I could be standing on that island. It's a 15-minute walk to the dock and a 15-minute boat ride to the island. So you can, in one morning, have an English class, a lab where you look at Ram Island, and a history class, and then go to lunch. That might be your Tuesday here at the University of New England. But it's not just the island. right across the road from the University of New England is a 363 acre woodlands that the University of New England owns. And so there's a lot of classes that go out there and are, examining the area, studying the area, looking at the vernal pools, all the different organisms that are in the woodlands. Clayton, have you taken any classes where you've gone out into the 363?
So I have not. However, I did. One of my friends who was here for the summer doing research spent her entire summer in the 363, hiking, doing different kind of genetics research, and she had an absolute blast out there. But like Dr. Tilburg was saying, in the first 2 years at UNE, you will probably spend more time outside at Ram Island on the intertidals doing research or doing work than you would in, 4 years of high school.
Fantastic. So these are the different research vessels that we have here at the University of New England. In the upper left-hand corner is the RV Sokoke. And this is a boat, and it's also in the bottom right-hand corner. And so you can see that it looks like a 1940s landing craft. Like the front of it lowers down, and this is the one that's designed for Ram Island, where you go up on the ramp, the front lowers down, and you can just walk off onto the island. It holds about 30 people, and so it holds an entire first-year lab. And so our students get to go out on the water, and we're going to get you out within the first 2 weeks. We want to get you out on the water as much as we possibly can, and get you in the water, get you truly studying and finding what it's like to be in marine science, environmental science. Now the other two boats, the RV Lear, which is in the upper right-hand corner, and the RV Vitruvius, which is in the bottom left-hand corner, are smaller boats that are used by our faculty for research. And so if you do things like Clayton does, where he works very closely with Dr. Mohan and does his shark research, you're going to spend a lot of time on these smaller boats. Now, this is one of the things that actually really excites me about the University of New England. So if you're interested in marine science or environmental science, I'm telling you, you're in good company. There's a lot of people that want to do this. And so we want to make certain that you don't just get, you don't just get experience in classes. We want to make certain that you get hands-on lab and field experience. We want you, like Clayton is going to be able to do, is when you're trying to get a job or trying to get in graduate school and someone asks you, what's so special about you? Why should we hire you, or why should we select you for grad school? You can say something like, I've been working with Dr. John Mohan for 2 to 3 years. I've been looking at the migratory behavior of blue sharks, and I've presented at a couple of conferences, and I'm second author on a paper. And so they're going to see that you're not just someone that's learned about it, that you've actually done it. So this picture shows one of the projects that we work on. This is a picture of Tara Boag, who is the woman in the middle. She was a junior in this picture. And every week at low tide, we go out and we sample the Saco River and look at all of the fish that are in there and the diversity of it. And then we have the long time series of what the Saco River looks like. And when I say we, I don't mean the faculty. I mean the students. The students are the ones that are in charge of this. In fact, students like Clayton don't really trust me anymore with identifying fish, because Clayton does it every day, and I haven't done it for a while. So he's not going to trust the professors anymore. He's going to trust himself doing that, which is fine, because one of the things about doing it at low tide every week, low tide moves. So sometimes low tide's at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still in bed, and students like Clayton are up doing this. So this is a picture of Michael Turner, who is a undergrad and a grad student here at the University of New England. And so we don't just do field work. This is lab work. So Dylan was really interested in seeing what was the best wavelengths of light to grow phytoplankton. And so all of these tanks have slightly different wavelengths of light. And his project that he worked on for 4 years while he was here was determining what were the optimum wavelengths. And he's actually used this in the job that he got once he's graduated. And this is another picture of a student who was both an undergrad and a grad student. This is a picture of Andy Robinson, and he was part of our 4+1 program, which we're going to talk a little bit about. And Andy did both his bachelor's and his master's here. And Andy knows more about the currents in Biddeford Pool than anyone in the entire world. Biddeford Pool is an area of water that's right next to our college. And how he knows all about this is he developed his own satellite drifters and placed them in the water and then tracked where they went. And the orange thing that's at the end of the pole is a satellite drifter. And I know there's at least one of you in the audience thinking it's not a satellite drifter. That's an upside down 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. And the answer is it's both. So Andy developed his own homemade GPS receiver and transmitter. That's the blue part. And he attached it to one of these 5-gallon buckets, put weights and floats in it. So when he tossed it in the water, it floated right at the surface. And these were very, very cheap. He had a bunch of them. He put them out there and he tracked the currents. So when Andy graduated with his master's, he had 2 publications that he was the first author on. Andy's now an electronics technician on research vessels in the Antarctic. So he spends a lot of time now sending me beautiful pictures of what's going on in Antarctica. So this is one of our marine biology classes. And so you can see our students get to go out, they get to snorkel, they get to really, really examine our environment here. And this picture, you can see one of our instructors, Dr. Alicia Williams, is looking at something she's got in her hand that one of the students pulled up. Clayton, I know you've taken this class. Can you describe when you went out snorkeling?
Yeah, so when I went out snorkeling, I'll tell you, the water is definitely cold, right? It's not warm, but you're snorkeling right off of Ram Island in this intertidal zone, right, when it's at high tide, and there's just so much to see. We saw crabs, some people found lobster, there's a few fish, and you really get to interact with the environment around you and get hands-on experience and, get in the water. There's a lot of people that I know who don't live near the coast and they don't get the opportunity to get in the actual ocean, let alone, snorkel and look for things they're learning about in the classroom. So I can tell you that it's a great experience. And as somebody who loves to do underwater photography, I got to bring my camera with me and use my skills in a different environment.
So this is probably our most famous resident of the Marine Science Center. This is Peaches. Peaches is a lobster that has a genetic mutation that her shell, instead of being the mottled brown of a normal American lobster, she's bright orange. And also, if you notice, she only has one large claw. She's growing the other one back. So if any of you students actually, the students that are watching this, if you come here next year, you'll see that she'll have 2 claws by then. But this is one of the many projects that our faculty are working on. Dr. Marcus Frederick is looking at the genetics that result in these fantastic colored lobsters. And I'll tell you that Peaches is truly famous. She was in the Portland Press Herald, which is our local newspaper, but she's also in the Boston Globe, CNN, USA Today. She's gone international. She was in the London Times. And I can tell you, I have been studying marine science for 25 years. My specialty is climate change. I have been quoted in CNN twice. Neither times for what I do, climate change, both times for Peaches, our famous lobster. So again, if you come here as a student, that's one of the things that you can do, is that you can help Dr. Frederick determine what are the genetics behind these incredible colors of the lobsters. But we've been spending a lot of time talking about marine science, and I want to also talk a little bit about environmental science, some of the things that you can do. So if you see this picture, and this is obviously just a shameless plug by us to show you some of the cutest animals in the absolute world, these 2 bear cubs. So one of the environmental science courses that Dr. Noah Perlett teaches is you learn all about hibernation in North America. And the highlight of the course, what actually the students look for the most, is about 2/3 of the way through the course, they drive up to somewhere in Maine with everyone in the class and somebody from the Department of Natural Resources, and they go and they check the vitals of a mama bear with all of her cubs. Now, the only people that get to go to this are the ones in the class, because they're the only ones that have been taught exactly how to handle the animals. And so I've never been here. I don't even know where it is. Dr. Perlett won't tell me. Clayton, on the other hand, if he takes this class, can actually go out there. So if you're a student, you get to both learn about it when you're sitting in class and you're talking about it, but then you also get to experience it. And I can't imagine any better way to really drive home what it is to know about hibernation, is that when you actually get to handle these bears. So our classes are small. They almost all have an experiential component. We get to know our students, and the students get to know the faculty extremely well. You know, we have very, very diverse programs. You know, so they're founded on really basic courses, but there's a lot of flexibility. When there's something new coming up, we can immediately talk about it because our classes are small. So our first year courses have about 48. They're capped at 48. Second year capped at 24. And then 15 and 12. So our classes are very, very small. Now, one of the things, I think one of the real strengths of our program is that we have a lot of different opportunities. There's a lot of different majors in the School of Marine Environmental Programs. And you can see here, we have majors in environmental science, environmental studies, we have marine science, and then within marine science, there's two concentrations. There's marine biology and oceanography. There's a major in marine affairs. There's a major in aquaculture, aquarium science, and aquaponics, a major in sustainable ecological aquaculture, major in sustainability and business, major in marine entrepreneurship, and then we have two minors in climate change and geographic information systems. And when I do this, when I show this and in person, and I can actually see the students, the first couple times I did this, I saw the students' eyes get really wide because they were like, oh my gosh, there's like 5 majors here with marine in the name, 2 with aquaculture, 2 with environmental studies. How in the world am I going to pick which major is right for me? And what I'll tell you is that the very first semester that you're here at the University of New England, you take a class, you take it with me, and it's called SMEP 100. That's the first time that I ever met Clayton, was in that class. And all the incoming students are in the class. And we, you know, I teach them about how to use the library, how to use the tutoring center, you know, what are the different, you know, how to write a resume, things like that. But the biggest part of the class, and the part that makes the students the most excited, is I have faculty members from each one of these majors come in and tell you exactly what it means to be an environmental sciences major, what kind of classes you take in environmental studies, what kind of careers you have in marine sciences, what the difference in marine affairs and marine entrepreneurship is. So you can make that decision after you've stepped foot on campus. We've also made it very easy for students to switch. The first year for all of these majors looks almost the exact same. So if you switch from marine sciences to sustainability and business, all the classes that you've taken, switch over and you're not behind, and you can still graduate on time. And we did that on purpose because, to be honest, about 80% of all the students that come into our program come in as marine sciences with a concentration in marine biology, because that's all they've heard of. The other 20% are in environmental science. But once they're here, they discover some of these other majors. And although 80% of marine science, 80% of students come in as marine science, less than 60% of them graduate with that because they discover some of the other majors. So here I'll quickly go through what each of them means, but to be honest, it's not that important because you can switch from whichever one you want. So the first major is environmental science. This gives you a really strong foundation in natural resources and environmental issues. And it's the largest, it covers everything. The next major is environmental studies. And instead of looking at the science of the environment, you look more at the economic, social, and cultural issues affecting our physical world. Now, these two majors, environmental science and environmental studies, actually look the same for the first 2 years. So you have 2 years to decide if these are the right majors for you. Then we have the largest major. So marine sciences gives you a strong foundation in everything marine. You can do the marine biology track, you can do the oceanography track, but you're going to take courses in math, chemistry, physics. You're going to have this ability to learn everything about the marine world. And what's really interesting about the University of New England is marine sciences is actually the largest or second largest major at the university, which is different from most places, because most places that's like a niche. But here, a lot of the university is centered around the marine sciences. Marine affairs, totally different beast. So this gives you a strong foundation in marine science, but you also get courses in coastal law, conservation and management, regulation and government. So it's not nearly as science oriented, it's much more policy, management, and government oriented. And it's run by a professor, Professor Faraday, who's not a scientist, she's actually an environmental lawyer. This next major, aquaculture, aquarium science, and aquaponics, this is aimed at those students that really want to learn how to grow and take care of aquatic animals, sustainable food products. I like to joke that this is the major for that kid that has like 8 aquaria in his house or her house, and the only reason why they don't have more than 8 aquaria is because their parents will kick them out if they get another aquaria. You come here, you'll have the opportunity, to really engage that passion. This next major, which has aquaculture in its name, sustainable ecological aquaculture, this is centered around our ocean farm. So we have our own kelp farm out by Ram Island, our own island, that we put in November and we take out in April. So you're going to have the chance to actually help us grow sugar kelp in Saco Bay if this is your major. This next major, sustainability and business, and the major after it, marine entrepreneurship, were both based on the fact that we have a lot of students who really love the environment, love the marine environment, but they also want a strong business background. And so they had started by trying to double major in business and either environmental science or marine science. And it was just a lot of work. So we worked with the Department of Business to come up with sustainability and business. Your first 2 years, a lot of environmental and sustainability classes. Your last 2 years, management and finance and accounting classes, so that when you come out, you understand how business works and how the environment works. Marine entrepreneurship, slightly different in that you get a really strong basis in marine, and then you take business, but you also get some innovation and entrepreneurship classes. So you learn how to take that passion and start your own business, or take a small business and make it larger. Now, lots of people actually can't choose, and they go, you know what, I'm going to do environmental science and marine science. Or they get minors, like Clayton, who's like just seems to be collecting minors. So Clayton, can you remind everyone, what are your minors again?
Yeah, so I minor in chemistry and applied mathematics. I can tell you when I came here, I did not think I would be doing either one of those. But I found out while, taking a bunch of these courses, I was like, man, I could use this for grad school, or maybe this will be beneficial to my research. And I was like, wow, I can get a chemistry minor. That's really convenient. It'll look good for when I'm going to apply for graduate school and other programs. And then while I was there and talking to Dr. John Mohan about the research I was doing, he's like, you might be interested in applied mathematics. And it seemed out that was a lot of statistics and a lot of data analysis, which is something I find to be really interesting. So you definitely broaden your interests while you're here and realize I'm interested in a bunch of other things. And UNE's really, really accepting of you of that and does a really great job at letting you expand on, your major and minors.
Thanks, Clayton. So, we do lots of majors and double majors and minors. We have a heavy experience on experiential learning. We have a lot of research opportunities, and we have a lot of internships. But I want to switch gears for just a second here and talk about some of our graduate degrees, because some of these, you may be thinking, I'm in high school. Why do you want me to think about graduate programs? And it's because you can combine some of the undergrad and graduate. So we have a 4+1, which means that you take 4 years as your bachelor's, and then 1 more year with a master's, and you can in 5 years, get a master's in environmental science, a master's in marine science. We also have a typical 2-year program where usually students from other places come and in 2 years get a master's degree. And we have 2 very specialized programs. We have a professional science and master's in ocean food systems, which takes 15 months, and you learn everything from how to start growing stuff in the ocean to how to eventually put it on someone's plate. And that's a very, very specific major, but a lot of our marine entrepreneurship and aquaculture and aquarium science students are interested in that. And then our newest major, our newest graduate degree, is the UNE Marine Affairs Main Law. And that's where you spend 3 years here as a marine affairs major, and then you move to the University of Maine and go to law school. The first year of law school counts as our 4th year of an undergrad, and then 2 more years, and you graduate in 6 years with both a bachelor's degree and a law degree. You save an extra year, so you graduate in 6 years instead of 7 years, and you pair one of the nation's best marine affairs program with one of the nation's best coastal law programs. So you get this fantastic combination. Now, more than half of our students are doing research with faculty at any one time. And that's one of the reasons why we asked Clayton to be on here, is because he does a lot of research, but he's not the only one. It's very typical for our students to get involved. And you don't have to start as a junior or a senior. In fact, a lot of our students start as first years. They start with a very small project, or they're working for someone else their first year. Their second year, they get their own project. Their third year, they're going to conferences and other things. And their 4th year, they're helping run the lab. Clayton, could you just talk a little bit about your research experience? And I mean a little bit, because you could talk about this forever.
I'll skim the surface. So I got involved in research here when I was a freshman. I took my first semester just working in a lab, doing basic stuff with zebrafish. And then the next semester, Dr. John Mohan started me on a project. This project specifically worked with a local species of sharks called spiny dogfish and reducing catch rates of them. And it was a minor project that kind of evolved into a summer project I gathered data on. And now I can tell you that for the past 3 years, I've been actively working on this project and gathering data to write up a scientific article about it. So getting involved with research, a lot of the professors here are super open and willing to take you on and help you learn new skills. And then getting your own research project just comes up after that.
So I love this picture because this typifies the type of research that you can do here. So you see this incredibly cute squirrel. If you look closely, you'll see around its neck is a radio collar. And so one of our faculty studies migration patterns and movement of squirrels on our campus. And so if you come to campus and you take a tour and you look around, you might run into students that are holding what looks like an old 1970s antenna. And that's actually finding the location of these squirrels. And so those are first year students that help gather the data. Then the second year students start to analyze it and then present it and then write papers on it. And so it seems like a silly project, and they don't take themselves very seriously. The students who are in this project call themselves squirrelologists. But you get to learn how does the scientific method work? How do you actually ask good questions and then find the ways to answer those questions and then defend your answers. And so you learn all of those steps so that by the end of the time that you're at the University of New England, you're not an environmental science student anymore. You're an environmental scientist. And that's what we want. That's where we want to get you to. We have a lot of different internships here. We have internships that are on campus, 2 miles down the road at a salmon hatchery, or in Guam. You can do internships absolutely everywhere where you get research experience and you get academic credit for it. We also have a lot of different clubs here, and I'm going to turn this back over to Clayton because Clayton, you know the clubs better than I do. You tell just a couple of the clubs that our students might be interested in.
Yeah, so a few of the clubs that you can get involved with on campus are, for example, the Scuba Club. That's a club that I'm a part of. We go scuba diving twice out of the semester, and it also allows you to get certified, paid by the school. So you can get scuba certified without paying a dime. Another club you can get involved with is something called Ocean Club. Ocean Club is where we go, we talk about the ocean, we have fun events, and we also help clean up the beaches and get involved in different programs and activities. There's a large variety of other clubs that can be related to either sports, or maybe you're interested in sailing. Maybe you want to play rugby for the first time, right? All the clubs on campus are very opening, and all you have to do is go sign up. Actually, in the fall, I think it's within the first month of school, we have a large club fair out on the Commons lawn where you get to walk around and just find out what all these different clubs do. And when you sign up, you'll get emails sent from that club. You can attend the meetings. I know I'm going to the Boston Aquarium for free with my club, and I can't wait because it just means I get to go see more fish. So you really get to do a large, diverse variety of things here on campus.
And we have 2 learning communities here. We have the marine learning community and the green learning community. They're slightly different. The marine learning community is set up where we take over one floor of one of the dorms, and all the marine science students, all the marine science students who want to do it, can live in that dorm. They have a roommate who's a marine scientist or marine affairs or something like that. They have different activities that they get to do. And it's a great way to find your people immediately. Like if you want to do that, if you want to find all the other marine people, boom, you can do that by living in the marine learning community. We also have the green learning community. And this is all the environmental science, environmental studies, sustainability, and sustainability and business majors are automatically in the green learning community. You can also choose to be in it if you're in marine. And what's really cool about that is that the very first semester you take 3 classes that all look at some sort of environmental issue from 3 different perspectives: a business perspective, a science perspective, and a literature or humanities perspective. So you become really, really close. The very first couple of weeks, I think the second or third weekend, we all go up to a little cabin in central Maine and spend the night, go by the bonfires and have a great time talking about everything that you're going to do. And one of the things that I like the most about our students here, I think Clayton is a fantastic example of this, is that if you talk to them and you ask them, what are you going to do? Nobody at UNE dreams small. When you ask them, what is your goal in life? It's addressing climate change. It's making certain that endangered sharks, get off of that list. It's dealing with marine plastics. No one here thinks about small jobs. They're like, we're gonna save the world. And one of the things that I like the most about that is that since everyone is here is going to save the world, Clayton's only got a small part that he can do, so that his other 2 lab partners have to work just as hard because they're going to have other things they're going to do. So it's actually a really collaborative instead of a competitive environment. Everybody helps each other because we all have a different part that we need to do to help the environment and help the ocean. And so you will get pressure to perform well in their classes, not just from the faculty, but from other students.
And I just want to build off of Dr. Tilburg in the marine learning community. I was a part of that. And I can tell you, freshman year, I met this kid named Dylan on my floor. Never thought I would keep hanging out with him. I ended up living with him this year, and we've been best friends for 3 years. I went to Belize with him, had various classes with him. It really is an awesome community, and you really get to, find your people and hang out with the kind of people you like.
So Clayton, that was perfect, because now we're going to talk about study abroad. So there's two different types of study abroad at the University of New England. There's ones where you can study for the whole semester, and there's others, travel courses like the one that Clayton went on, where you learn all about a particular area in a class here, and then at the end of the semester, you take 1 to 2 weeks and you go visit that place. Well, let's start with the semester ones. So the two ones that we talk the most about for study abroad for a semester away is one is in Morocco, and this is a picture of the Tangier campus of the University of New England. So you can go to Tangier, live in a UNE dorm, take UNE classes from UNE professors in Tangier, Morocco. And if you're a marine scientist or an environmental scientist, this is one of the coolest places that you can possibly go. Tangier is right at the Straits of Gibraltar, where some of the most interesting dynamics in the ocean happen. You're very close to the Sahara. You've got all kinds of things that you get to study as an environmental scientist or a marine scientist. And there's activities that happen pretty much every weekend that you're there. The other one that we talk a lot about is in Iceland. So we have a partnership with the University of Akureyri, which is in the northern part of Iceland. Well, University of Akureyri is an environmental and marine science college. And so you can go there and take environmental and marine science courses. And one of the really cool things about both Tangier and Iceland is that you don't have to work that hard to fit it into your schedule. You're able to take your chemistry and your biology and your marine science and physics courses at both of these places because we've set it up specifically for that. And I can tell you that I've been to Iceland. I went 3 or 4 years ago, and it's the coolest place on earth. I have never been to a place as interesting as Iceland. And I want all of you, whether you come to University of New England, whether you go somewhere else, you need to go to the island of Iceland. Now, the other programs are, again, you go there, you learn all about the area for a while, and then, or for the entire semester, and then at the end of the semester, you actually go to the location. And Clayton, you went to Belize, so can you give us a summary of what your experiences were like once you got to Belize?
Yeah, so let me paint you guys a picture, right? I sat in a classroom for the semester learning about coral and fish and various species of fish, but mainly coral. Then we all took a plane down to Belize. We landed in Paradise, took a water taxi, and lived in basically the backcountry of Belize, right on a beach, and spent every single day snorkeling twice a day, right? And on top of that, I don't know if there are any scuba divers out there, did a whole day of scuba diving. That was what I did as my free day. So Belize for me was basically learn about coral and everything that interests me, and then go see it in person with a lot of new friends I had made and having just an amazing time too. You make such a good connection with the teachers you go with. You make such a good connection with all the friends you have, and you see so many different amazing things. So really, really life-changing experience.
And there's not just Belize. You can go to the Galapagos, you can go to Panama, you can go to Kenya. So all of these classes, it's not just a tourist. It's like you learn about the science and then you get to go experience it. And I have not talked to a single student who didn't say what Clayton said there, is that it was actually life-changing for them when they came back. I will tell you, I graduated from college 30-something years ago. I did not do study abroad, and I still regret it. I've gone all over the world, and I still wish that I'd studied abroad. Okay, one of the last things that I wanted to talk about was all the different research opportunities. We talked a lot about these different things we can do, and so what I told all our faculty was, all right, I'm going to be meeting with a bunch of students, prospective students. Tell me why what you study is cooler than what anybody else studies. And so I'm going to go through them here. So on the upper left-hand corner, Dr. Patricia Thibodeau will tell you that phytoplankton are the true heroes of the earth. Those trees out there, they get all the publicity about producing all the oxygen. Phytoplankton produce more oxygen than trees. You should study them. Dr. Marcus Frederick would tell you, no. Invertebrates are the way to go. Sea stars, lobsters, crabs, that's the most interesting thing. Carrie Byron will tell you, you've got to learn how everything works together. So you got to do food web ecology. Dr. Mike Daly in the College of Business would tell you, you need money for all of this. You need to study business. All of us will tell you that we're running out of land to grow protein, and so that we need to start looking at sustainable seafood. Dr. Jerry Fox will tell you, you come here, I will show you how to raise clownfish from eggs. And quite frankly, if you don't think that clownfish are cool, I'm not quite certain why you're on this video watching us, because they are awesome. You can learn about mammals. You can learn about cetaceans and pinnipeds. You can learn about seals and sea lions and dolphins and whales. You can work with Dr. John Mohan with Clayton and learn about fishes and sharks. Professor Susan Faraday will tell you, when she goes to a Maine fishermen's forum to learn about policy and management, you have never seen such passion as fishermen, scientists, and regulators getting together talking about how we're going to save the environment. Lots of us work with robotics and technology. If you're more environmental oriented, Dr. Pam Morgan will tell you that wetlands and marshes are the Earth's best defense to sea level rise. Dr. Rick Peterson will tell you, come with me to Kenya and you can learn about soil conservation and what happens with droughts and how they affect small rural communities. Dr. Noah Perlett will tell you all about how bobolinks, these tiny little birds, fly from Vermont all the way down to South America and back every year. Dr. Tom Clack will tell you about restoration and how the American chestnut tree, which has been pretty much wiped out in the east coast of the United States, and he's bringing it back due to genetic modifications. And he'll tell you all about that. Dr. Will Katitsky will tell you all about geographic information systems and how if you had to choose one minor to get a job when you graduate, it should be geographic information systems. All of us will tell you how important climate change is and how to adapt to it and how that's going to affect you over the next 50 to 60 years. Now, I want to brag just a little bit. The University of New England was in the top 10 best colleges for marine biology by College Magazine, top 10 best marine biology colleges in Biology Explorer, and top 15 best marine biology degrees by College Choice. So obviously we like the top 2 more because they have us in the top 10, but College Choice, we'll go with that too, that we're in the top 15. What you really get out of that is you're going to get a really strong, really rigorous education. And that means that when you're done, you're going to get a job. 95% of UNE undergraduates are employed or engaged in higher education within 1 year of graduating. And UNE is #1 in Maine for getting a job. So I always like to end with this picture. So on the right-hand side, we have Amber here, who pretty much typifies what it's like to be an SMEP student. She's wet, she's dirty or sandy, she's probably cold because it is Maine, she's holding a soft-shell clam in her hand, but she's really happy because she's doing exactly what she wants to do. So again, here's my contact information. If you have any questions, you can email me at ctilburg@une.edu. If you go to our website, you'll find my email on there. I'm happy to answer any questions right now, but I'm also happy if you send me an email to answer any questions. Also, you can set up a time. You can meet one-on-one with me. I can do that through Zoom or through a phone call. Donald, do we have some time for some questions?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to thank you, Charles and Clayton, for joining us tonight. Again, your perspective, Clayton, as a student is invaluable to these, again, students thinking about UNE as their choice. And Charles, obviously, you're providing that in-depth knowledge around the program. Now, we do have time for a few questions. I know we have one so far, but if you have any other questions, please utilize the Q&A function for this platform. But one question that we did that came in during the presentation was centered around research. And Charles, you might be able to answer this question. If students are doing research over the summer, are they offered housing or offered a stipend to help them sort of make that summer commitment work?
They are. We have something it's called the Summer Undergraduate Research Experience. And I know Clayton has actually gotten one of these before. It's got the cool acronym of SURE, SURE. But what we do is we pay students to work for 12 weeks over the summer, and they have the opportunity to live on campus at half price of what it normally costs. And then at the end of the summer, they give a presentation. So they get the chance to work 40 hours a week and get paid for it, working directly with our faculty. Now, not everybody gets these. They're competitive. You have to work with your faculty member to do it, but you can then have the opportunity to really concentrate on your research.
Okay. We had another question come in. If you're thinking about doing the 4-1 program, could you also do a double major for your bachelor degree?
Technically, yes. It would be very difficult because that's just a lot of classes to take. The beauty of the 4+1, though, is that you don't have to decide that when you first get here. You apply for the 4+1 in your junior year. So what I would tell someone is if you're interested in 2 majors, pursue that, and then talk to your advisor during the fall semester of your junior year and decide, okay, can you still do it? Do you want to drop one of the majors so that you can finish that 4+1? There's all kinds of different opportunities. I know some students have done it, but I know that you're going to be very busy if you double major and do the 4+1.
Yeah. Okay. So another question: are there any freshwater labs or studies?
Are there any freshwater labs? Yes, actually, we have a salmon lab here, where all of the salmon in there, and there's about 60 to 70 salmon that are in there, that are all in a recirculating aquaculture system, where it's all fresh water, and the students learn all about how to take care of salmon, but also how does all of the plumbing and everything else work.
Okay. Now, Clayton, this is more of a question for you. When you think about research projects, are they assigned by professors? Can students formulate their own research project? And what does research look like during the winter? What are students doing when it's maybe too cold to go in the ocean?
Yeah. So the first project that I was assigned, that I have right behind me on the wall, that was actually something my professor introduced to me and said, "Hey, I think you should take up on this and continue it." But I also proposed my own research project the following year that related to more of looking at the stress of sharks. So you can definitely do either one. It just depends on the project idea you're proposing and how much thought you've put into that project. During the wintertime, it really depends on what research you're doing. In the shark lab, we've worked with striped bass throughout the winter, which incorporates us feeding the striped bass, measuring them, such as weight and length, and also just keeping them alive for age validation studies. However, I work with a lot of data in the winter. I do a lot of video analysis and coding in coding such as Python and R Commander or RStudio. So it really depends on what you're involved in.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So we're going to wrap up with one final question, and I think this is going to go to both, Charles and you, Clayton, as well. We'll start with you, Clayton, though. Out of all the schools you considered, what made you pick UNE?
So I had gotten accepted to several different schools and toured a few of them. What did it for me, what did it for UNE specifically, was how related I was able to get on my first visit with teachers. The first time I came to UNE, I had a sit-down conversation with Dr. Mohan on the research they were doing, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I met professors such as Dr. Frederick, who, if you come here, you will absolutely love him. I met Dr. Tilburg on the first day. I met probably 85% of the professors in the Marine Science Center, and when I came back the following year, they remembered me. So it's really that closed-in community that you're walking down the hallway, you say hi to a professor, they know who you are. And I think that was really special and important to me.
And for you, Charles, as you think about the students and other programs that, are out there for marine science, what makes UNE so special?
So I would say what makes UNE so special is that when our students are done, when our students have graduated, they actually know how to do things. They haven't just learned about them. They haven't just sat in a classroom. Is that they've gotten their hands dirty. They've actually learned techniques. They've learned how to think for themselves. And so I have so much confidence that when they graduate, that they can go out and do what they've studied. They just haven't learned about it. And I think that's one of the things that really separates our students, is that when they're done, they have the confidence to go out and do marine science, environmental science, or whatever major that they have.
Again, thank you so much to Charles and Clayton for joining us this evening. Now, as we wrap up, just a few reminders. We have an early action deadline coming up next week of November 15th. Again, that is a non-binding deadline. So if you're admitted to early action, you are not required to attend the university, but we would love to have you on campus. And then we have a regular decision deadline of February 15th as well. Now, if you have any questions, as again, you start to work through this application process leading up to any of the deadlines, please utilize us as resources. As I said at the beginning, I work with students from Boston and the North Shore of Massachusetts. So I'm your territory counselor. I will be the person who will work with you directly. So again, if you have any questions about UNE or about the application process in general, please visit our website and find an answer for your area. Now, we do have some additional virtual sessions coming up. On November 30th, we're going to be focusing on talking about living on campus. And then we're going to finish our Discover UNE series focused on what the next steps look like in this process. Now, if you have any general questions, you can also reach out to just our email or phone number. I always highly recommend checking out our social media pages as well. It's a great way to learn a little bit more about the university. But I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. But again, thank you to Clayton and Charles for joining us this evening. Again, your perspective is invaluable as students start to really picture themselves in these programs. But thank you for everyone joining in tonight. If you have any questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out. But have a great rest of your evening, and go Nor'easters.